Welcome back to Afterlife Topics. This is Cyrus Kirkpatrick, supernatural researcher. If you haven't yet, please hit subscribe so that I keep the morale to keep this channel going despite the fact the audience is still pretty small. So, today I want to talk about why the astral plane is in fact a great place. And so this is a little bit of a response to all of the opinions I see online in esoteric groups basically saying avoid the astral plane, don't go there, it's a bad place, it's not really heaven, it's satanic, or it's low, it's not enlightened, or whatever it might be. You hear a lot of bad rap about the astral plane, which is basically where like 95% of us go when we die. So it's kind of funny hearing those opinions. I want to kind of defend the astral plane a little bit. So here on the screen, you will see this kind of map, afterlife map, that was made by George Meek from a book. I think his book was called "So We Die, What Then," or something like that. So Meek was a highly evidential scientist. So he used to go out of his body, and then he would be able to film himself being out of his body, and you'd actually see his astral body using like highly sensitive camera equipment projecting out of his physical body. So he was able to capture this kind of stuff on video. So highly evidential researcher, very interesting guy, very interesting conclusions. He was also a very talented out of body experiencer, which is the stuff that I do. Out of body experiences, astral projection, probably more talented than I am. So anyway, so he created this map, and there's a lot of kind of like maps about the afterlife floating around. And so when I did a Google search, I saw a lot of like versions of this, but a lot of them were kind of weird. So there's all these like weird concepts tossed in, probably stuff being kind of made up by the author. Sometimes you'd see religious stuff. It's like Earth, lower astral, middle astral, the Matrix. When you find out that Christianity is real, hell, where the devil is deceiving you, like all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of like weird afterlife maps. So this one to me is the simplest and probably the most accurate. So you'll see in the bottom, planet Earth, dismal, highly physical. So I would say an abnormally physical plane of existence where like a lot of life kind of begins. The lowest astral, maybe I would put this below planet Earth because, well, no, lowest astral is still a higher density. It's a higher density realm where people have abilities and things can happen that you can't do here. But it's a really nasty, dark environment that you don't want to go to. Middle astral is where most of us go when we die, which is actually a very beautiful version of this planet, and people live lives, have houses, have jobs, but they can also communicate telepathically. People can teleport around, and you can do stuff there you'd never dream of here, and there's all kinds of fantastic creatures living there, and all the geography matches. So if you want to go to Japan, there is an astral Japan. If you want to go to Italy, maybe you can hang out with Julius Caesar, because people who died here, they're hanging out and living there. The highest astral, there are gradients between these. I think probably countless gradients, but just as a rough estimate, we'll know that there's also levels above the Earth when you're no longer on the astral Earth, but you're in like self-enclosed realms or higher versions of the astral Earth. So this is when place becomes like extremely refined, extremely beautiful. There's a high levels of cosmic consciousness level connection between people and places. The environment is even more bustling and alive, and you're using senses you don't have here. There's colors that we don't have here. A lot of people who have near-death experiences, they end up in these higher astrals. They see cities made of crystal and all kinds of fantastical things. Causal and mental, this is when you're no longer on the astral spectrum. So the astral spectrum basically is when from source consciousness we create, or powerful entities create these kind of physical existences where you can explore, create, meet other people. There's a stronger sense of separation and individuality, which helps our own growth. And essentially, it's like creating arenas. But these arenas are the size of the entire universe, which, as we know, is billions times billions of stars. So it's countless. I mean, there's billions of stars in the galaxy, there's billions of galaxies, and there's potentially many, many universes. So that's how big the physical cosmos is, and that could potentially be all of the astral gradients included in the physical cosmos. Outside the physical cosmos is non-physical realms of existence, which are almost impossible to describe using our terminologies. If you believe some of the stuff in the spiritualist literature, like the book A Roads to Immortality, it is a super dimension of like shapes and emotions and things on a spectrum we can't imagine. So sometimes I joke and say floating around is a purple octagon in a sea of lava lamp colors. But that's just me being a bit, being a bit playful. In reality, it's stuff we can't even comprehend what it's like, but we're getting closer to like the staging area, the place that I would call like the progenitor realm, where we all came from, and that's the celestial realm. Again, impossible to describe, but it would probably be a place where they're no longer, basically at this level you are just God. So there is no more like individual shells or existences. It's like all existence is just this one mind, and then this one mind is endlessly creating all the stuff that we see going on beneath it. So that is the cosmos and metaphysical study of the afterlife in a nutshell. So pretty big topic to condense into a couple of minutes, but that seems to be what we're looking at. So why is the astral a really great place? Because if you talk to certain people in the spiritual communities, they say, no, do not go to the astral. We must all return to source consciousness and go straight to the celestial. Well, the celestial, the mind of God, is what creates all those astral levels you see. Why is the mind of God creating the physical cosmos, creating physical existence? The mind of God is creating all of that because it's a way that we can explore love, and it's a way that we can explore adventure and basically create. This is how stuff is created. Okay, I mean, even if you want to look at existence as like this big video game, right? Okay, so the programmer of the video game is doing all this because video games are awesome. How about TV shows, films, whatever it might be? It's the nature of God, divine existence, to create all this cool stuff. So it's kind of like the astral is where everything is created, and the levels above the astral is where like administration is, that's doing the creating. So where do you want to be? Do you want to be in administration? Do you want to be the programmers? Do you want to be the godlike non-physical entities that are creating all this stuff? Or do you want to be one of the participants enjoying the fruits of all that creation? And knowing that we all have versions of ourselves up in this causal mental state, that means that we're already on that level. We haven't accessed that part of our consciousness yet. But again, where do you want to be? Do you want to be playing and experiencing and adventuring in the creation? Or do you want to be at the level of the creator? So that's what it comes down to. Personally, I want to explore all the cool stuff. I hear there's cities made of crystal on the higher astral planes. Great, I want to explore that. The middle astral, we have a carbon copy of our world, but fantastic, with creatures and people who are deceased, and we have governments, but maybe we have like ancient societies that are long forgotten from this world that still persist on that side. Great, I want to go explore that. The lowest astral, dark, foreboding conditions where the dregs of our society end up banishing themselves to until they can find a way out and get appropriate help. Great, I want to go help them and learn and have experiences through helping them, and and always be exploring new individual souls, because every individual soul that we meet is itself an entire universe that we can explore. Everybody you know and care about, they are like their own mini universes. There's endless ways to explore life in the physical cosmos. So the people who say we must just go straight to the causal and celestial level and bypass everything else, a lot of times they're parroting a religion. So religions, throughout history, they've basically discovered the same model, but religions attempt to create systems that our human brains can understand, and so they make it into like this hierarchy where you want to start at the bottom and get to the top, and then we also have this kind of capitalistic drive to get the best, and so we think, well, then I must get to the top, and that's the best. Is it, quote, the best? Yes, you may be able to reach the most exalted levels of consciousness, but from that point, what happens? Source consciousness comes back and creates the astral levels, okay? So this was all created by the levels above it, understand? So if that's the case, I think it's a huge fallacy to suggest that one level is better than the next and we should just neglect everything that's not this one particular place. Some people feel like they're only meant to be like in the causal and mental planes. We had this lady who joined the group, and she was just furious at anybody who would possibly want to be in a physical astral existence. So I tried to entice her and say, look, crystal cities, beautiful planets beyond our imagination. You can be young again. Well, she was already young, but the point is you can be young as long as you want to be, and beautiful. You can explore every hobby and activity you have ever dreamed of here, and there's endless possibility. And she's like, nope, I want to be an orb of light, and there's nothing anyone is going to say to persuade me otherwise, because I'm disgusted by the human being. So I don't know what makes someone like that tick, but they've had very specific experiences that I don't have any personal way to relate to. So for me, this astral business, because I've been over there many times through out-of-body experiences, and there's just so much to explore and do. So the idea of just racing to the end of existence on the celestial level makes zero sense to me. And it's almost like people who want to die. So when we find out there's an afterlife, some people are actually looking forward to kind of the end of the human experience because they really hate it. And so it's very appealing to them to maybe just get away from all of that and just go straight to the top and remerge with source consciousness and enter a level of consciousness that's just so far beyond whatever we once were that any vestige of who you once were is now eliminated. For some people, it's very appealing. And everyone's on their own path. So some people, maybe they're such an old soul and they've had 1,000 incarnations and that's all they care about anymore. That could very well be the case. But I think more often it's because somebody maybe is kind of depressed, nihilistic, or antisocial, and they think that they look at something like this, it gives them anxiety because they don't like the idea of a continued earthly existence. And so that's why they want to go to the top. So I would say look at my other videos about what really is spiritual development to hear what I have to say about that. Because basically, if you have such an issue with other individual souls, you're probably not learning the lessons of love and compassion to even really be able to enter this causal and mental level. Because what we know from spiritual teachers is that we can't access these higher levels unless we've, quote, graduated. So that would mean we've had existences in all these 4 astral levels, earth, lower, middle, higher, earth also being an astral level, until we have such a loving and compassionate existence that this extremely powerful loving energy allows us to just fly with ease to any level we want. So if you're coming at this from a position where it's like, I don't like society, I don't like people, I don't like my life, I just want to go to the celestial level, I've got bad news. You might not be able to even get to the causal and celestial levels because you're stuck in a very negative vibration way of thinking. That's about all I can add for this video tonight. So you can check out other videos in the link below in the description and afterlifetopics.com. If you like what I have to say, you can check out my books, Understanding Life After Death and The Afterlife and Beyond, which you can grab on Amazon or potentially your local Barnes & Noble, but it's a safer bet to find them online. So that's it. I will see you guys on the next video.